It's Jeremy from jeremy.net. So, we're back to another drawing purge. So these are all of my figure drawings from the end of April and from May. And I'm just going through and sorting the ones that I'm going to photograph for my blog, which ones I'm going to redraw and study and fix, and which ones I'm just not going to show because they're horrible. Except I'm showing them to you to show you why they're horrible and why I'm not sharing them. So this one I'm going to put on the blog because these are, I'm starting with the drawings in my toned sketchbook. These tend to be longer poses. They tend to be like 10, 15, 25-minute poses. And I really, like anything shorter than that, there's no point in me drawing in toned paper because I barely get a chance to even block in the figure. While I really don't feel like I got the hands very well in the sense of the foreshortening in them, I was spending a lot more time working on the torso. And honestly, with the toned paper, I spent so much time focusing on the torso anatomy that it's like I hardly ever put anything in with the face. It's almost silly that I even suggested a face in there because I didn't really put enough in there to make it feel finished. But I started finding all these other areas where once I got the torso kind of working and getting the light bending around into darkness on the other side, then I started realizing, oh, well, there's all this stuff going on with the hand where I had a poorly drawn hand. I didn't get much volume though. I didn't even have a chance to put white in there. And then on this side where I've got white in there but no dark around the fingers, I actually started getting kind of into suggesting not just the not just the general direction of the light, but suggesting the bones of the fingers in the top of the hands. But I didn't have a chance to come back and work in that. This is one that I usually don't go back and rework the tone pieces that often, but this one is worth working on that hand and both of these hands really, to just see what else I can do with it. See, this one is probably more like what my my 10-minute poses look in the tone paper. This one really patchy, really scratchy. The sense of the light is completely it's completely off in the sense that the figure is lit from the right, but I've got shadow coming around on this side only because this arm is here, but it doesn't feel united. It doesn't feel like solidified in the sense that like this is dark, this is light, this is where the light's coming from. This one I actually probably will go, and I have a smaller toned sketchbook just for when I need to sit down and do studies because I don't necessarily feel the need to waste a whole large sheet of paper. Well, it's not a waste. But I have a smaller sketchbook that's also a duplicate of this one, and I use that for when I go back and do studies to try and fix what's wrong with this. And mostly here it's just poor lighting of the whole figure. So this one, I don't think I'm going to put that in the blog. Definitely, I may come back and rework it though. This one I'll put in. It's nice. It feels finished-ish, but it's not drawn from a model. This was while the model was on the break, and I just felt like doing a drawing that felt, I don't know, felt a little bit more finished. I think that on that night I wasn't doing very many good drawings, so sometimes I'll do a comfort drawing, because the point where I'm in class is not to do pretty drawings. The point is to learn, and learning requires doing a lot of bad figure drawings, which you'll see. But every once in a while, everybody needs a little ego boost once in a while. So you'll do a drawing just, because it's something that you can. And even this one, it's still not a perfect figure. But it was just me sitting down saying, all right, let me just work on the structure of the torso turning away from me. This one I'm actually fairly pleased with. This one will go on the blog. Even though the rest of it is all completely unfinished, the legs, the arms, I spent a lot of time really focusing on trying to get the sense of volume of the rib cage, the torso, the breasts, the stomach, just creating the sense of rounded forms. And I feel like I actually got that in a decent level. So a lot of times the drawings that I'm pleased with are it's not about them being finished, because this is a very unfinished drawing, but it's about me trying to describe something that I'm not particularly good at and learning how to do it. So this is one where it feels like it's moving in the direction of what I've been trying to do, the whole point of doing these tone paper studies. This one, this one's a maybe. I'm not going to tell you yes, I'm putting in the blog, or no, I'm not. I mean, it's a pretty completed torso, but it feels very patchy to me. This feels, if anything, more like one that I should probably restudy, like do another smaller drawing and work on fixing it. And I'll probably do a video of me fixing a couple of tone drawings soon. But this one, it isn't the lighting does not properly describe the volumes, and that's the problem with this drawing. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not anything I put in a museum. So I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in the blog. Maybe I won't. This one, unfinished drawing, but I'm happier with it. Why? Because I feel like, again, even though the lighting doesn't feel like it's completely solid going all the way down the front, the front of the torso and the top of the thighs, it does feel consistent. And that's something that I struggle with, is keeping consistency in my lighting, particularly because the figure isn't lit by just one light. There's a few different lights in the room, the setup where we're working. And getting all of that in, you have to make decisions. You can't just draw what you observe, otherwise it won't make sense visually. You actually have to decide, do I want to use this light source on the left, this light source on the right? So you can't just be passive in their drawing. It's a challenge, but decision making is important when you're doing figure drawing. This one drives me crazy because if it weren't for the fact that they did such a horrible job with the rib cage, I'd be really happy with the way the light and the tone came out with this. So she was rim lit, and I really felt like that came out nicely. I'm gonna put this in the blog anyway, even though that rib cage is horrible. And to be honest, I think her torso's a little bit too wide. Like I err on the side of making women's torsos and hips too wide, just because I think there's a tendency to make women skinnier, like because we feel like somehow that's going to make them more attractive, when you can actually capture the beauty of someone by giving them a full sense of volume and like, this is what the human body really looks like, instead of drawing them like a stick figure. But in this case, I think I made her torso a little too wide there. Her rib cage is a little too wide. Either way, I like this drawing. It's going in even though it's not perfect. This one I'll also put in. I like the lighting, again, consistent lighting. This one is sketchier. I didn't get around to putting in very many solid blacks on it. That happens sometimes. I mean, you're drawing on the fly. This one, horrible drawing. This was probably an example of the thing I mentioned before about doing a comfort drawing. This was an attempt to do one in between a model's pose while she was on a break. And it's just crap. It's like me trying to put together a set of building blocks with ABCs on it, and it just falls apart. It just didn't work. And then me doing a sketch of the Belvedere torso from memory, just because I was trying to think about the torso structure and really that transition from the upper torso rib cage to the stomach to the pelvis. Because that's still something I have trouble with. I go to these classes all the time, I draw every week, and there's still lots of anatomical things that if I'm not staying on top of them, it falls apart. So I'm constantly working. This one, probably good for restudying, because foreshortening is something that I always like to work on and try to improve. It's not something I think I do fantastically. And this would really have helped another artist who was in our class, who's going to be teaching at the Animation Guild later on in the year, Ron Velasco, had mentioned I would probably get a lot better sense of the foreshortening if I had used rounded hatching instead of just doing a softer tone, but actually getting this into that cross hatch to circular motion to show that something is moving towards us, having the light moving around the form. And he's dead on with that. So I may come back into a study of this arm particularly, because I want to learn how to capture that in light and tone. This one, probably one of the more completed drawings in my class that I've been taking lately. This one must have been a 25-minute pose, because I don't think I could have finished all of this in a 10 or a 15. This one will go in. This one's in the maybe pile. I'm probably just going to photograph it, leave it in there. There's times where I photograph some of these, and then on the days when I'm actually posting my blogs, I just look at them like, I don't like that drawing, and I decide not to. This one's on the bubble. This one, just a simple study of an arm. I think I'll put it in. It's not perfect, but it's, again, light describing volume, and that's the point of using the tone paper and the light in the dark chalk, or light in the dark charcoal. And I feel this one is a reasonable study of me trying to convey that, and particularly in trying to convey the anatomy. The anatomy is not perfect here. I was trying to get the sense of the muscles that are wrapping around the elbow, the transition from the upper arm to the forearm. and it's suggestive, but it's not as well described as it could be. So actually, it's worth coming back and doing another study from. This one is one of those where I feel like I want to. It's not a great drawing, but I was intentionally trying to go really big and just work on a simple form. If I had done this much smoother and subtler, it would have worked better. But there's something about when I squint at it that I can still see what I was trying to go for in this. I don't know why I want to put it in, but I do. I also feel like I want to restudy and do more drawings from it, where I'm like literally just working on these anatomical details close up, and just the same way you would just draw a simple sphere with tone, just working on simple details, just saying, all right, this is how this object, how light turns around this object. Same with this arm. This one I don't like as much, but I think I might still put it in. I'm leaning towards no, but I'll photograph it just in case. This one, I was really bothered by this one in class because I felt like the pose the model gave us was great, the way the light was hitting her was great, and this is just one of those where sometimes you get pissed off at yourself because you can't replicate the beauty of what the model is doing. Like there's just a natural beauty to her forms and the pose, and you know the overall gesture is fine, but in terms of actually rendering the lighting, it didn't come out well. But looking at it now, I'm not as harsh on it. Like I can still see the things I don't like about it, but it doesn't feel horrible to me. I'll photograph it, see how I feel. This one I actually do like. I feel like I did a very poor job of turning the breasts around the torso. They really look like they are pasted on, like they're on a different plane than the plane of her torso. Part of that is the fact that this arm being raised was pulling, even though it was pulling this breast, it seemed like it was pulling it not as far around the other side, like more back towards the center by her arm being raised. But I struggled with it. This is almost one where I would need to have a model in a similar pose again and really analyze what it was I did right or wrong. If anything, it feels like this breast should be flattened out more and turning on the other side of the rib cage. But overall, in terms of the lighting of the pelvis here, this is a little bit too repetitive. That was another thing that Ron pointed out to me in terms of going from a small form to a larger form to the large transitional form of the hip into the thigh. Bump, bump, bump. So the question is, how do I accurately depict the anatomy without being that repetitive with the rhythms? It's worth me restudying, but the level of finish on it I think is enough that's interesting as a drawing to put into the blog. This one I'm pretty happy with. Again, very, very patchy rendering, but it has energy. And energy is the hardest thing to capture in a drawing. It's not perfect, it's not great. All of this should be much, much smoother and rendered out well, and it is not. But, you know, it's one of those where I hated it the night I was doing it, but I feel better about it now. All right, that's the end of the tone paper drawings. All right. So these are just on newsprint. These are more of like the, generally they're 5-minute poses. There might be a few 8s in here. There's always, you know, there's usually some 1 minute or 2 minute poses in here, which are super sketchy and loose. Let's see. Right here, you can see the thing I talk about redrawing your drawings to try and understand what you did wrong. It seems weird to me. I think this drawing, I think, is the one that I did first, and then underneath it, while I was in class, I could clearly see that the drawing was not working out well, wasn't finished, didn't have a great sense of transition and bend. It's this transitional area, the lower abdomen. It's that area between the pelvis and the torso. I pointed it out in the other drawings in the tone paper, that getting a natural flow in it, like a contrapposto, not even necessarily a contrapposto, but whenever it twists or bends, creating that sense of both oneness and then separateness of this form changing and twisting. So this was just me trying to do doing a study of this drawing. And kind of the same with this right here, because I was looking at this drawing, I was like, well, this isn't horrible, although it feels a little weird in terms of how I think that there was more foreshortening on this pose, and if I were to actually go back in time mentally, there'd be more to the hip and the pelvis here, so it wouldn't feel like this is something that you're actually looking at. I feel like the pelvis was probably more coming toward as opposed to going up. And that's why this thigh is so blocky, is because it actually was, the whole thing was larger. His whole body was larger, but there's a lot of foreshortening here, and I didn't get it well. And it's funny because I realized this was me doing a study, again, of another drawing that I'd done. And when I look at this one and the proportions, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was just, ugh. Like, just the proportions of the rib cage to the torso just did not feel right. So I think I was trying to go back and fix that, but I didn't quite fix it the way I wanted to. I cleaned up the drawing, but it doesn't feel like it was really an improvement. I definitely didn't get the foreshortening. I got the foreshortening in the upper arm coming towards, but not going back. So this is another one. Whenever I try to do, wow, I did a bunch of studies of this pose. Maybe this was the original pose, and then I did 2 more studies. The point is that I'll draw the same drawing. Hang on, you can't quite see it. There we go. So I think this might have been the original drawing I had done, and then I did 2 more studies of the same drawing while I was in class. A lot of times I'll just keep redrawing it so I figure out what's right or wrong. So far out of this, I think this is the only one that I like enough to want to put in the blog. Maybe this one. This drawing has some nice this page has some nice gestury stuff in it. Maybe I'll photograph these 2. I mean, they're very loose and sketchy, but that's part of the thing on the blog. It's just a lot of figure drawing sketches. This one I actually like what I'm doing here with the anatomy. I could have solidified it and used some darker lines to give it a sense of tone, but they were probably short poses, so I didn't get around to that. So I will probably photograph a couple drawings from those. Not every drawing on that page. This was just a note I made to myself. These had to be like 1 or 2 minute poses. Probably 1 minute, because they are so super light and loose. I like them, but I don't think there's much point in posting them to the blog because they're so abstract that you can't really tell much of what I'm learning, what I'm doing here. Maybe this one, but yeah, maybe I'll photograph it, just see if people react to it positively or not. Then just a little note to myself: light reveals volume, volume reveals anatomy. You know, just things to tell myself, like when you're trying to get to these better drawings, that before you dive into those anatomical details, you need to understand how those anatomical details fit into the overall structure of the limb or the body part that you're drawing. And to describe that part, you need to you need to understand how it is lit. I make little notes to myself all the time. I think this time I actually even wrote 2 minute poses. Yeah, I wrote 2 minute poses on here. And honestly, I probably did this for your benefit. As I was in class, I'm thinking people are going to be like, why can't I tell what the fuck any of these drawings are? It's because they're all 2 minute poses. I think out of the 2 minute poses, this one is probably the one I like the most. She's got a really nice gesture in there, so I'll probably photograph that one. Maybe this one. And maybe I'll photograph these 2 together. Yeah, the other one's not so much on the page. See here. I like some of the drawings on this page. This one. This one's pretty unfinished. I may photograph it anyway and change my mind later on. Now, these 2, I feel like I got nice twists in the torso. Yeah, I may photograph like these 2 together. That's another thing I've started doing, is instead of photographing a whole page, just taking the drawings on that page that I like and just photographing those. But these 2, I think, make a nice couple. So, yeah, who knew? I actually would like a page of figure drawings. Oh. And again, I always tell you, I'm not saying this to be hard on myself and beat myself up. I'm not telling you this so that you should beat yourself up. I'm telling you all of this because it's not a crime to do bad drawings. It's a crime to not learn from them. And that's why I also, go back and I post videos of me doing corrective drawings where I'm studying and analyzing these later on. But you have to do a lot of this bad work. This bad work is like the exploration. It's like doctors doing dissections on cadavers in medical school, because you don't want someone cutting up, a real live person and figuring stuff out on the fly. When you're doing finished formal pieces, that in theory is like the surgery. That's where you should know what you're doing. I mean, even though we're still figuring out a lot of stuff in every single, you know, piece, but doing figure drawing studies, I mean, this sounds really horrible towards models now because it's really dehumanizing them, because we're very grateful to have people that are allowing us to study from them. But it's like the figure drawing, the work itself, the drawings are like doing anatomy dissections. You know, it's like you're really in there just drawing, studying the parts, studying all this, figuring out how everything fits together so that when you do your own formal work, it will live. Like you hope that a doctor would hope their patients live. All right, little tirade. Dover. These are pretty scrappy. Again, probably 1-2 minute poses. I like these two. Might photograph those for the blog. And again, so a lot of these are ones where I'll photograph them, and I tried to think too much about it now. If I'm on the bubble, if I'm on the fence, then I'm like, I've gone back and forth. Because there's times where I said, if I'm on the fence, it's not going in the blog. Now there's days where I'm like, if I'm on the fence, I'll photograph it just in case. You'd think I wouldn't be that precious with it with all the goddamn figure drawings I do. I like this one. This one, the model, he has a very long, elongated torso and limbs. And I feel like that's the challenge when you have a model that has a body like that, is how to accurately depict it without it feeling cartoonish, without it feeling exaggerated, without it feeling distorted. You want to be able to sell any reality you're drawing. I like what's going on up here with this figure, so I'll photograph that for the blog. The rest of these are too patchy and indistinct. They don't really teach you much. This one might be worth redrawing because of the fact that you're getting this bend with the shoulder pulling forward. And you can, you know, the drawing indicates that the upper torso is turning away from us while the pelvis is in profile and maybe a little bit towards us. So there's a subtle twist here, but I'm not showing any of that twist in the drawing. It doesn't feel it. So this would be worth studying, particularly just to try and get that twist. So maybe I'll try to remember to save this drawing and do some studies from it and show you what I'm talking about when I'm trying to correct it. Let's see here. This one, let's see, like this pose, I didn't get the foreshortening in the torso, in the lower part of the torso there, but I do like it. I like the energy and the gesture of these, so I'll probably photograph these two for the blog, and this one. The rest of them are a little too patchy. This drawing right here is me just doing, again, another study of this pose. Trying to get the shift between the trapezoids going down, and then the pecs going up into the shoulder. Like there's very interesting anatomical shift here in terms of these muscles that are overlapping and going in different directions. Because I mean, the trapezoid's only going down in the sense that it's going away from her neck into the shoulder, so it's almost like it's going sideways, but it's tucking behind her deltoid, her shoulder. And so I was coming back trying to study that little phenomena there, and also get the more of a twist, because I don't feel like I really got the sense of her torso, the arm really being, the twist that was going along with her arm being raised. See here. In this batch, it seems like there's like 1 or 2 on every page that I want, as opposed to normally I'm like, this page sucks, no. I think this was me doing a study of the arm that was on the toned paper, and the study doesn't feel that much better. It's just more clear because, you know, there's more line work, more construction lines, but it doesn't feel like it actually, you know, conveys anything better. Yeah, this page, what's funny is when I first sat down, I was getting ready to, when I was prepping to do this video, I actually looked at this page and thought, these aren't bad. And now that I'm looking at them, I'm like, there's nothing in here I want to put on the blog. They just don't speak to me. A lot of times that's it also for the drawings, is just, do the drawings speak to me or not? I feel like this one speaks to me. And again, it's me doing a study of the drawing right next to it. Like, her foot came out just kind of like a club here, just a thing kind of changing transition, and I still didn't get it in this one either, but I was trying to get, there were all the details, like getting the transitional form of the knee being pressed against the backside, and there should be some flattening here which isn't happening, or some rounding of the knee pressing into the calf, you know, from behind the underside. I didn't really get that subtlety here. The main thing I was trying to get was the sweeping arc of her stretch, and then her ribcage going up and over. So it had a very nice, elegant form to it. So I went back and was redrawing it, trying to get that. So the ribcage is what I was really focusing on when I was doing this redraw. And then I was just doing some little doodles here, trying to like think about these primitive forms and how I'm using them, which, you know, sometimes I'm using them poorly and it's not well thought out. These are 2-minute poses again. I like this gesture though. I remember even when the model took this gesture, I can remember in class thinking, my God, this is the type of pose that I would love to be able to sit down and do like a, you know, a 15 or 25-minute drawing from. I mean, obviously it's a pose that's pretty difficult for a model to hold. I've never, you know, expect a model to have to hold it for that long, but her leg, which I didn't get, the right leg, was, you know, propped up and then resting on her left leg. So her legs were bent and rested on each other, and then her hands were pressed against the wall, and her torso was curving away in space. And this is one of those times where I felt like I got the foreshortening of her body really curving away. Also getting the curviness, the sweep of the torso here, and this bend with both the torso and then being counterbalanced by her hip pushing up. So I like these two. All right, yeah, that's it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital comic at newsletter.jeremy.net. That's newsletter.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.